Hello everyone and welcome to another live Q&A session from the Business Circle brought to you by AT&T. Today our featured guest is Ramon Ray. He is a technology evangelist. He is the man behind smallbiztechnology.com. Got a busy week this week with the Small Business Summit taking place in New York City. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. Main focus of our conversation is growing your small to medium-sized business, and we're going to take the full hour to talk about that. My name is James Hilliard, very happy to be on board for this conversation, and you are really a big part of the conversation. We've got team members that are watching Twitter, they're watching our webcast platform, so your questions, your comments, your challenges, what you've tried before that didn't work that maybe you want to try again, all that is open game, and you can share that with us. So I encourage you, especially with the webcast player, type those questions and comments coming in. I'll get an idea. I'll mix those into the conversation as we go along. 40 minutes or so easily we want to spend on the growth of the business, but we want to take time at the beginning to talk about what we feel are two strong pillars that every business needs. Enterprises I've seen have focused a lot on these two pillars. Small, medium-sized business lagging a little bit behind. So Ramon, before we get into those two pillars, I'll reveal what those are. First off, you've got a busy week. I do appreciate you taking time talking with all of us here today and being a part of this conversation.
James, I am ecstatic and excited to be here. I think anytime that I can talk to small businesses and help them, and I really do mean help them, I'm excited about it. So thanks for having me.
Growth is what we'll focus on for the majority of the conversation, but security and mobility. Those are the two pillars that I was alluding to. And you and I have talked a little bit about this. You talk about these aspects of business often. Let's start with security.
Sure.
I had mentioned, I think that enterprises out there, upwards of 5 to 7 years ago, started making a very conscious effort to focus on security because we as consumers were saying we're not feeling safe with you. The enterprise has, I think, caught up, maybe not 100%, but they're getting very close. Small, medium-sized business, my observation, they're not as security focused. How top of mind does security need to be for those organizations?
Yeah. And first of all, James, you're right. They're not top of mind. It's not top of mind. I think some of the reasons are because it's not a, part of the word, it's not a sexy, industry. People think I'm not going to be attacked. I'm just a small business owner. But I think it has to be top of mind. And I think to some degree, before you can do other things in your business, if you're not secure, it's almost as if you bought new jewels and have them in your home, or a new car, unlocked garage. You get my point. It's for naught. So it has to be top of mind.
But you brought up that they think, because I'm small, I'm not going to get attacked. And I see security a lot. There's technology at play for sure. There are processes you put in place. But it's a people mentality issue. So how can small businesses, how do you talk to small businesses about getting into a secure mindset?
Sure. I think two things. I think a couple things come to mind, James. I think one, a few years ago, whether it was the 80s, 70s, I'm bad with numbers, bad with dates and faces too, but some time ago, hackers wanted the fame and glory, and how can we hack into it and get on the evening news, whatever it is. As I understand it, James, now it's not quite like that anymore. They may want to be quiet because they want to steal the information. It's crime syndicates doing this. So that's one thing to think about. I think point two, oftentimes these big crime hacker, the bad guys, are going into a small business as a gateway to the bigger business. So I think with these both here, it's no longer just a game. It's just like you would have theft rings, stealing a lady's purse in a neighborhood. This is serious business. So I think small businesses, they need to understand it's serious.
Yes.
Beyond the liabilities and things like this that are obvious, having their customers' data stolen, it's serious business. They need to change their mindset.
And the mindset can be one that you also then project to your customers of saying, I value whatever you're giving me, whether it's credit card numbers, whether it's just traffic on my website. I value you enough that I'm going to make sure it's secure. I'm going to look for the technologies. I'm going to look for those things to put that idea of trust out there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I believe, talk a little bit about how trust plays such an important part in any business.
No, and you're right. I think you started off by saying how the big businesses have done that because they wanted to appear and be trustworthy, which is sure. Small businesses now need to do that. I mean, they should have done it earlier, but definitely now, especially in the worlds of where information travels fast, that small baker, that small retail shop, law office, anybody accepting a credit card, or even, James, holding personally identifiable information, the greater scale of things, I think it shows that I value you, so I want to keep your credit card secure. I like it. I don't know about you, James, but I like going into a store where they say, may I see your ID? It doesn't piss me off.
Right.
I say, thank you. I trust you more.
Yeah.
Instead of me just giving my credit card and swiping it, You don't know who I am?
Outside, let's go back to the baker.
Please.
Outside of then doing what we would do with PCI compliance, right, the credit payment industry and all those regulations, what else on that security mindset should people be exploring about? What should they be talking to other business owners about in terms of security and those secure ideas?
Sure. I think a few things. I mean, I think one, it comes with training. Have your employees trained well, that they know that they need to be secure. I think two, rely on your vendor. I mean, hey, we're here in AT&T, Biz Circle, rely on your vendor who can help you with that. I think point three, educate yourself a bit about it. Point four, there's practical things you can do in your own business to be secure. Don't write down your numbers. Have them a bit more complicated than dog, or your wife's name or husband's name, or as it were. So I think those are a few simple things that business owners can do as they're thinking, let me keep security top of mind. And I do say, James, I'm not for hire, you're not for hire for consultants, but I do say, get someone who can help you as an expert. I really believe there's some level you can do on your own, but get some people who can help you do it as well.
And I think the level on your own really, again, comes back to the mindset. And then, yes, focus on your baking.
Yes.
And let someone handle, the security. Second main pillar I wanted to talk about, and this had a lot of conversation in our last Business Circle event. Folks, if you joined us, Alexandra Wilkes-Wilson was our guest, and she was the founder of Gilt.com. If you didn't see the interview, you can go to bizcircle.att.com and see the archive. Her second business, Glam Squad, started as a mobile app. And then it was like, oh yeah, and now we'll do the website and we'll do some of these other things. But had that mobility mindset, that's where the customers that Alexandra and her team were serving were mobile. They were young women needing makeup services, beauty services, and they were mobile and on the go. Does the baker need to think about mobility?
I wish I could scream and jump up. I won't, since we're at an awesome location here. But yes. And the reason why is a few reasons. I think one, if you look whether it's an urban setting like New York City, anywhere else, there's trains and a lot of commuters. What are people doing? That's what they're doing. So people, we're living in a mobile world. Whether it's tablets, whether it's phones, whether it's small computers, we're living in a mobile world. So that, I think, is one big driver of that. That baker, going to a simple, generic example. When people are looking for your website, does it show well on a small screen? Small businesses need to design for a small screen. I think point two, small businesses need to design or think about small attention spans. I won't go beyond that. We'll let a psychologist in a future show talk, but small attention spans. Yeah. And I think point three is that local, as far as search and things like this. So not just the screen format, but people are looking, they don't want to walk 10 miles to the baker unless you're selling something darn good. But so I think those are three reasons. The screen size, local, and I think just we're in a world where the attention spans are wanting to, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, you want to swipe. Can you make somebody stop swiping on their phone?
Yes.
So,
baker sells a good. What about services? Do service companies need to think about those same things? Anything different for a service company in terms of mobile?
No, it's a good point. I think for the baker selling a good, you want ideal scenario, someone to buy, click and buy that bread and have it delivered, whatever it is right there. For the service, I think, why? Because what people are doing after work, they're on their phone scrolling through, thinking about what service they're going to hire that weekend. Think about who they need to teach their kid piano, whatever it may be. So yes, people are maximizing time, hopefully not driving in their car, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And they're on their mobile devices.
And then those need to be the two ideas we've already talked about. That mobile experience needs to be secure as well.
Yeah.
And putting that all together, then we've got two, I think, strong pillars to say we've got our organization in the right place. So for the rest of the conversation, I hope maybe what we can do is either say, if you don't have security and mobility together now, think about those things. We're going to talk growth. That's not going to stop you from listening. But if security and mobility are not thought about and aren't mindsets really top of mind, focus on that and then move into some of the growth things we're going to talk about. Is that a fair? I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, I'll take them.
Okay.
And I would say it's like building a house. I mean, or any other analogy. You wouldn't go, what kind of range do we want in our kitchen? What kind of sheets do we want unless you have a foundation? And I think that even though I get excited about talking social and content and marketing and tweeting and all these things, if your mobile strategy is not there, if you can't operate as productively out of your business as you can in your business, which is a whole other point of that's one, and your customers are on their mobile devices. So you're right, that's the crucial foundation. And as you said, just recapping that, the security, James, man, it sounds like the boring part of it, but just get that right, because know that hackers want your business. They want the information that you have.
They want that, and I also know if I'm throwing a party, let's go back to our bakery, and I'm ordering something, and my credit card gets stolen then from him, I'm not ordering from that baker again, and I'm going on Yelp,
Yes.
and I'm going social, and all that growth he may have tried to do to grow his business that finally caught my attention, because he wasn't secure, I have the power as one individual socially to tear everything that he worked on down, and we don't want your business to get torn down from that. So we'll go on the assumption you are thinking about security, you're thinking about mobility, you're getting that kind of house in order.
Right.
Once that house is in order, one of the questions we got is people registered for the event, they could ask questions. 40% of the questions, and a lot of questions came in, we're saying, where do we start in growing our business? I think we do need to break it down, and we can throughout the conversation. I think there are differences between the baker and the service provider.
Absolutely.
So we'll make those distinctions as we go through. And again, folks, if you have questions, absolutely submit those to us so we can expound upon some of the ideas that we're talking here. But where do you start? We'll come back to the baker, and then I think I'm going to come up with some other idea as well. But we'll use the baker for a moment.
Their limelight is great today. Maybe it's what we're eating or something. I don't know.
We'll take the baker of selling a good.
Sure.
And again, we're thinking that is a true small business. It's not a chain. It's that local, kind of mom and pop neighborhood bakery. How do you start growing that business if you've thought about security, if you've got a good working website, you've got some mobile inclement? How do you start growing the business?
A few things overall, James, I'd say, not even speaking specifically about social, but I think just general some good business practices are one, I always like to say focus on your customers. It sounds cliche. I like cliches, but I think that you have 10 customers who've already paid you money. Why are you, like they talk about on Shark Tank, why are you going out and trying to find some other people? Focus on these and get them to buy from you again. Get them to tell others about you, make them your ambassador. So that's point one, tip as it were, for growth. Focus on the customers you have. I think point two, I would say staff training. You could be solo, for solo entrepreneurs out there, that's great. But if you have one or two people, train your people to do things right. I think another thing that's very important is you can always do better the marketing aspect of getting more customers in. So those are three things to start us off. I think there's so many, but I think focus on the customers you have. Training is important. And I think systems is another thing. Very small businesses, I find, James, they think it's only for going back to only for the big guys to do it. But having replicable systems in place, that's how you start to cook with fire, as it were, another cliche, as it were.
10 customers. And they love my service, they keep coming back and back. How do I turn them into that evangelist? One idea that I know a lot of businesses default to is, well, I'll start giving that person discounts. Your thoughts on that, and I think you've seen that. That's a very tried and true practice, but I don't know how valuable that is. But talk about that.
And granted, people like discounts. I'm a sucker for discounts. You know, buy one, get one free, buy one, get 10 free. I'll take it any day. But I think a few things. I think as that business is growing, and I like the fact that you said 10. A one-person shop and 10, they're both small, but it's a bit different. So for those of you who are growing a bit, I think one thing is a CRM system, customer relationship management. It's a bit technical. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I think beyond just the email marketing, that's where you can get into some sort of a CRM system. I do some work with Infusionsoft. That's one vendor of many out there, but CRM. I think point two, you don't have to drive yourself down into the hell of losing money. Maybe you can say it better than me, James.
No,
do you know what I mean?
It's that
you
discount
keep going,
slide.
Yeah, discount slide.
It's difficult.
I'd say focus on better service. Think of any of the best hotels you've been in or the best car services. What is it? Thank you, Mr. Hilliard, for coming today. We also shined your shoes or whatever it is. You gave your kid a lollipop. They didn't have to discount you. You'll come back. So I think the third thing is also knowing your customers, because you're right. Some customers are coupon oriented. You know, buy one pair of shoes, get one free, but save, on that. But most customers just want a fair deal. They just want to be appreciated. So if you do that, man.
And the personal aspect, the small businesses, and I think of my dentist. My dentist left a big practice because he saw the lead dentist trying to cram in more people to the chair so he could literally pay for his yacht.
Yes.
That was his emphasis. My dentist now, he does everything. He's the hygienist, he is the dentist, he books he calls me up and bugs me every 6 months. James, he didn't make an appointment.
And he could automate some of that too.
But we have a relationship.
Yes.
And he takes time to talk to me and all that. How important should that be for small businesses to not only focus on providing a good for someone, but building the personal relationship? It's a little bit different from an enterprise. An enterprise can't always do that, but small business can take advantage of the personal connection.
I love it, James, and I think it's interesting because many businesses say, I'm selling B2B. What should I do different? I agree. There's a whole segment B2B we can touch on or not. But businesses are people. They're buying from each other. So I think at the end of the day, business is not just a corporation and a logo, it's a person behind it. So that personal aspect, your dentist is doing it right. And I think how can you scale that? Train your staff. When you go to even a bigger chain, your local big coffee shop, as it were, their good staff are going to say good morning, everybody. Sir, are you finished with this coffee? Can I take it, please? And so I think, James, that personal touch, we're in such a digital age. And I think that's awesome, mobile and tweeting and Facebook and Instagram and all these things. But man, nothing beats that personal human interaction that we're sometimes missing.
And we'll come back, and we want to get into a lot of aspects about social. I'm already seeing questions about what platforms do we use? Is it Twitter? Sure. Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
We're going to get to that.
Yes, we absolutely will. On the either training and or knowing your customer, I oftentimes feel that some people do that as a checklist type of idea. I'm going to get to know my customer. Customers change every 6 months, I think, every year. We didn't have mobile apps 5 years ago that were worth a lick, and now we've got a ton of mobile apps that really do enhance the services that we're looking for, the products we're buying. How often do you review your customer? How often do you have to keep that pulse to know what are they really looking for now? What's the shiny object they might be moving to that they weren't going after just a few months ago?
I think it's a kind of a 360 approach, and for a guy who's bad in math, I probably shouldn't say that, but a 360 approach is the thing goes all the way around, right? Okay, good. 360 approach. I think one, again, if you're a solo business or you have hundreds of customers or 50 is a little different. But the concept is, I think, one, making a purposeful determination to reach out and touch a customer twice a year, 3 times a year, depends on what works for your business. That's point one. If you're solo or if you have a staff, there should be a system in place that you physically reached out, called, preferably met them face-to-face, a customer. I think two, what about having events so you can bring masses of your customers to you? Maybe you're not reaching them individually, but they're coming to you. And I think three is technology. Are you personally, hey, dear James, thanks for buying these shoes last week. We appreciate it, like that. So I think those 3 things kind of, and there could be more. Other people may want to chat in their ideas, but I think that personal touch, one-to-one. I think 2, leveraging technology to reach out en masse. And I think 3, making it easy for people to come to you through an event or something is what I'd say to keep that touch point.
The event thing, and I love what Ramon just asked. If you've done an event, I would love to hear about that. And you can type that in and I can take a look. Is there a type of event you did to draw people together? I go back, it's another dental example, but it was my kids, their pediatric dentist, rented a local theater and did like a puppet show type of thing, and it's become kind of a yearly event, and you go, oh, I didn't know you came here, and I didn't know you came here, and they put on a fair amount of money, and they get nothing out of it except our goodwill, and we want to go back. Are those the types of events? And give me an example or 2 of an event that you've seen that you think has been spectacular.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 things. One is, of course, the event I'm doing on Wednesday, Small Business Summit. It's a little different, but it brings the community together. AT&T did an event, actually, this past July. In August, we went on tour to some AT&T stores around the country. That was cool because people got to come in. It wasn't about sales. It was about love of the community. Point 3, I think, my car dealer in New Jersey. He said, Ramon, I'm having a little event. Come by for some hot dogs and meat and whatever else we ate and drank. He had some cars there. It endeared me to him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from small to big, an event, and again, we're talking non-tech, but it really brings out that human, hey, thanks for being here. It gives you a reason to handshake or hug.
Farmers markets.
Sure.
I'm thinking of that even in one of our previous events. David Howitt was on one of our first Q&A sessions, and he talked about he and his wife were starting a business, and it was selling soaps and other types of items, and they were up in the Portland area, and they went to the farmers. You could invite people through social media saying, hey, we're having this at the farmers market. That's a way if someone doesn't have a big car dealership, they can't rent out a place. That's an idea.
I love that, and that's guerrilla. I mean, the lobster, I'm sure there's a lobster things where you are at, the lobster food truck. You know, I went online and they said, hey, we're in Midtown Manhattan where I happen to be. But I mean, I love it because you don't have to have a lot of money to do things with social media. And I think that's, or marketing in general, not social media. So I love that idea because the farmer's market's there. You're paying your fee to be there. Invite your customers there. You have a whole bunch of people at your stand. You look like the big dog.
Yeah. Do I use Twitter? Do I use Facebook? Do I use Instagram? Do I use LinkedIn? I'm going on what platform then do I use? And let's take the example of the farmer's market.
Okay.
What platform would I use to get people to come out to that?
Sure. I would say always, of course, and just I'll preface it, one, know who your customers are. I know we said it a lot, but it's important. Some people are Twitter people, some people are Facebook people. So know your customers. And two, let's not forget, assuming your email marketing and your website are done well. Now we'll move on. I just want to be clear in that. But I would think that, I like to think that for a farmer's market, and I'll give all scenarios, if I may.
Yeah.
Twitter is great for that fast approach. Hey, here's what we're doing today. Hey, check out these tomatoes. Or, hey, it's Fridays, tweet your favorite vegetable. If you get what I mean. You know, the kind of fast, quick, building the community there. Facebook, James, is where you build the conversation. Hey, me and my son are out raking leaves, I'm making it up, and look what we found an acorn. You know, you're putting some photos. Share your stories too, vote. It's where you want to have that conversation. And Facebook is a great place to do it. Instagram, great place for all things pictures. I mean, that farmer who can go throughout their store, if they have a retail store, or their farm, and take pictures of the fruit, take pictures of how it's grown, that you can build a huge audience. You have LinkedIn, which is great, one of the best B2B business tools. That's where your farmer's market and you're trying to get, you know, a big retailer, Macy's or whoever, you know, some, not a weird retailer, but Farmers and Macy's doesn't, you know, you want Macy's to have a farmer's market in the store for the Thanksgiving Day parade. You get what I'm saying? You know, that's where you can use LinkedIn to find who knows them. So that's the way I would see it if that helps. Twitter, fast, quick, to the point. Facebook, build that community, engage, have a conversation. Instagram, definitely. If you have a business that's picturesque, you can crush Instagram. LinkedIn, I think it still ranges at one-to-one. And a tip, remember, LinkedIn has the new publishing. They're kind of trying to get into Facebook's world by having posts. It works pretty well, so post on LinkedIn.
There are a lot of options. We're hitting basically the top four there. So one question that comes up a lot, I saw it in our pre-registration question. How do I, assuming that we know that our audience is on, say, Twitter, maybe it's Twitter and Instagram, that's where our audience happens to be, so those are the two. How much time do I have to take away from packing that new soap or baking that bread at the bakery? How much time do I take away from that work and spend on Twitter? Hour a day? 5 hours a week? It depends.
I think I have to leave now, James. That's an unfair question. No, that's a great question. Everybody asks.
Yeah.
I must say, James, taking myself, maybe you're in the same, I live on this. So people should not, you know, look up what Ramon's doing and, oh my God, Ramon's online, he just sent 20 tweets. This is what I do. For the regular businesses out there, I hate answering with the time, James, but I'm going to. I would say, if I had to have a guide for the newbies out there, I like an hour a day. I like it, give or take. But I think that here's my suggestion. One, if you live it and make it a part of your normal cycle, that's the easiest way. As you're walking, you're taking a picture of something, say it's Instagram, put it on Instagram. You know, it's the middle of the day, you're having lunch, do a little selfie video. Hey, this is James or whatever it is, Ramon, I'm doing this, put it on Facebook. So that is the easiest way. Make it a part of what you do. How often do you breathe? You know, one acronym I have, if I may, FREE, Frequent, Relevant, Engaged Analytics. Frequent, Relevant, Engaged Analytics, FREE. And that's my little acronym for how to crush social media.
And that sounds like it is not programmed. I know some people say, hey, 4 o'clock every day we're sending out this tweet, and at 2:30 we're going to post here on Facebook. That's not what I'm hearing from you.
You're not. And as you grow, I think you can have an editorial calendar. I'm all for that as you grow and if that's your discipline. But I must say, for some people, I'm trying to put my mind in a real small business. They're busy. If you make it a part of what you do, and as you said it first, mindset. If you start putting out your mindset, the power of social content, it'll become part. Oh, you know what? That's a dog wagging his tail. I don't know what it goes to, but let me take a picture.
Whatever we talked about, right?
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I suggest.
All right, and that makes sense because I think a lot of people get so worried that they have to at a specific time. Another question I see that comes up often on social media: if I put something on Twitter, do I then do the same thing on Facebook? Do I do the same thing on Instagram? What are your thoughts on that? Should they be different content? Do you spread the same content everywhere?
I think AT&T should have the Biz Circle Wars, and we should have 4 people who have a religious viewpoint on this. We'll have that at some other show. My opinion is that I think it's fine. Now, I think it's fine to cross them both, but with a caveat. I think if all you're doing is, you know, tweet A, Facebook post A, and you're doing that all the time, that gets a bit dry and boring. But what I do is, and what I found works, I do post some content on both. Starts from my blog, Small Biz Technology. However, I also do some things that are just Twitter, some things that are just Facebook. So that's how I do it. I do video. Usually my video goes just to Facebook. Twitter, pardon me, I have some things that go just to Twitter. So that's what I do. At one core, I can go to both.
Right.
But I do feed both audiences because it's just like feeding kids. You can't feed the same thing all the time. You have to spice it up.
Return on investment is coming up from a couple of folks out here. I see Destin out there, and I'm going to modify the question just a little bit, but the idea of, okay, if we're starting to do some of this, maybe we see that we had a couple more people come to the event than that we'd had the previous event, take the farmer's market idea. Okay, that's something we can measure. What are other measurements and metrics you look at to know whether or not that hour I'm spending every day on Twitter is really paying off?
Yeah, 3 things I think I'll say to that. I think one, I would not be caught up, now as a business owner, people don't like to hear this, I would not be first and foremost caught up in the ROI, the return of investment of social media. That's my first point. Now, before everybody wants to kill me and start tweeting me to death, calm down a minute, but I would not be so concerned about it. It clearly does work. Keep in mind, social is about educating people, kind of subliminal, messages in their head, getting them to buy from you eventually. So that's point 1. I think point 2, how to measure it, yes, is putting it now into a system. When you send a tweet out or a Facebook post or Instagram, etc., you can build links into that when they're clicked, when they go back to your site, when they go back and look, you can start to track it, going back to the CRM we talked about earlier. So that's where marketing automation and CRM come in. So on one hand, for those starting out, just do it. Trust me and James that it works, and others.
Yes.
But I think, too, to measure the ROI, in all seriousness, I'll get a little geeky, build tracking links. Google has free Google Analytics to track that stuff. 3, you can, all the social platforms have analytics, James. So you can go to Twitter and see, I bought an ad or I tweeted, how's it performing, Facebook and etc. So does that help with that? 1, don't worry about it. 2, you have to build a system to be able to track the ROI.
And then if you're taking that personal relationship you're building with your customers, there's always the baker that can say, hey, you're here, hadn't seen you for a while. How?
And ask, yes.
I saw a tweet you did. I saw the bread. I saw that banana bread that you were bringing out, or the pumpkin bread into the holidays. And so that's a way.
And
right?
Can I have one more thing on that? Yeah. Is just it takes time. That's my third thing I wanted to say is that those who are doing it. Okay, James Ramon said to do it. I'm doing it today. Oh, it's Tuesday, didn't work. Tuesday didn't work. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so expand upon that, because that is a question I often ask of folks and I tell people it's a journey.
Yes.
And sometimes, and folks, if you've done any type of marketing, you may have done some work with A/B marketing. You might, maybe it's just a tweet, maybe it's even just a Facebook post, and then you start adding the picture, or you do one is the picture, one is just the right, and you see what is really engaging with your audience. But some of us in small business, we do get a little antsy. This is our livelihood. We put a lot on the line. We've invested a lot of either our money, friend money. Maybe we've gotten some seed money if we're that type of business has gone out and gotten some investment, and we feel that pressure to show it's working. Do you have a time frame to say you got to give it at least this amount of time and then a little bit more before you throw in the towel or change direction?
Only since it's so recent. Shark Tank. Last Friday, week 3, Red Dress Boutique, I think, she had mentioned how she's using social content to grow her business. Just a point of context, she's been doing this for years. It's taken her a long time, years. So to answer your question, I think if you are deadly serious about it, and if you are determined that, we're doing the word of mouth, our business is growing, we're fine as we are. Do all those great things. We're training, we have systems in place, we're a core values company, we love doing all that, great. Keep doing that. If now you're saying, James Ramon said it, they gave me a kick, I'm going to do it. I'd say give yourself a quarter, 3, 4, 6 months.
Okay.
If you're doing it religiously, you're waking up in the morning and you're tweeting or Facebooking, you're doing this, you're engaging, you're responding back to. I'd say do that. If it doesn't work, I'll buy them a cup of coffee if they come to New York, and I mean that. But I so believe in this that, again, keep in mind, you're not looking first initially for the person to click and buy. Right. So I'm not guaranteeing that. But I am saying that over time, these things will happen. And let's not forget YouTube as well, another big content engine. But I think one is you will build a tribe or a following, like Seth Godin says. Love Seth Godin, his thoughts. You'll build a tribe and a following. 2, it gives you an opportunity, including video, to be able to bring life to what you're doing, going to the baker, or whenever you're ready to release the baker, we'll move somebody else. Take video of making the cupcakes and all these things. So I think it makes you personable, brings you out there. And I think 3, those 2 you can't help but grow your business. Once you're building a tribe of people who want to follow you, and keep in mind, I think going back to the mindset to set the stage, social content and good marketing overall enables you to build an audience of thousands who follow you. You have a brain lock. All it takes is a few percentage to buy from you. And that's what social enables you to do for low cost.
We've talked so far in the conversation about, and folks, about halfway through. So if you, again, have questions, comments, get those into us. More coming into the queue that I see, and a couple of really good ones that we'll get to here. But if you want, get those into our webcast player, and we'll address as many as we can. Putting information out there, the baker, the candlestick maker.
Yes. And their lawyer too.
are putting out in a lot of social media, especially it started, but I still see a lot of it now, was, hey, here I am. Hey, look at me. Hey, I'm selling this. And less about joining a conversation. So I want to shift gears here and take a couple minutes to talk about this, because social used to be about talking. That's how people took it. I believe, I've heard from others, I believe you're of the mindset that listening is so important in social. But people need to learn how to listen, because it's very easy for us to say, I'm right over here, come check out my stuff, here's my discount, here's my coupon. Talk about, just at the beginning here, how important is it to listen to your followers once you have them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give an example that happened to me last week, and generically. I put on Facebook 2 suits that I wanted to wear for an event I'm doing, 2 suits. I have maybe 300 people who voted on which one I should wear. Okay. That's an example of any business, as a small example, can say, hey, we're a law firm. We're tinkering. Should we bundle IRS tax code 582? I'm making it up, James. Or bundle IRS tax code 583. Which one would be best for you? Let people vote on it and pick. There's your built-in, what do you call in the mall, they pay you $100 to sit in a room and focus groups. So does that help? You know, that's the kind of thing that a small business owner, that's what they can do to find out that's the listening portion. To ask your customers a question, sit back and listen. Now, the other way to listen is, without a question is, I'll get a bit detailed for those who are new, if this helps them. Hashtags, kind of like hash brown, but hashtags, are one way that you can go into Twitter and do like a tic-tac-toe sign and type in cupcakes or brownies in Los Angeles. I'm making it up. You can help me out here to say this better. But my point is, you can then start to see the conversation that's happening around keywords. Right. You can do the same thing in Facebook and Instagram. So that's the way to do it. One way is to ask a question, or survey, and get input. The other way, if you're starting out, hey, we're a retailer of shirts. We want to know what kind of shirts men want for Christmas. Start doing searches on the keywords and watching the conversation, if that helps. I'm
thinking of an example. My brother-in-law had a friend who made little knit beanie hats for babies. Okay. And I could just see that going on Instagram, taking a cute picture of a couple of kids wearing a few that you're thinking that you might retail during the holiday season or around Easter or whatever, and saying, hey, which ones would you buy or are interested in or what have you? That's part of that, start the conversation there. What are other ways to, that's the small business starting the conversation. Are there ways and techniques for small businesses to get into a conversation that has already been started and that is already ongoing and insert themselves without, again, oh, hi, now I'm here, I want to talk.
Right. One of my friends is John Lawson. It goes by Colder Ice. He's an e-commerce guru. He was figuring out, he sells junk, or he sells stuff, as he call it, all kind of stuff. He was figuring out, what should I sell next? I don't know how he found out, but pardon the vernacular, he found out that little white boys in Chicago couldn't find do-rags because they wanted to be rappers and gangsters. Why, I don't know. But guess what? He's selling do-rags to the suburbs of a whole other state. It's not in the urban towns of America. Do you get my point? So it's a crazy example, but he found a niche. It's not about the race side, but he found that there's a market of kids who are in the suburbs, a different type of zone they're seeing on MTV, but they can't find the goods they want. Now in Brooklyn, where I grew up, the do-rags, do-rags and a blunt and all this stuff. They can't find it in the suburbs. This guy is selling millions of dollars of product by listening like that. By finding out, I want to sell this, how can I find an audience for it? So that's exactly what it's. The baker wants a new market, the lawyer, just start listening.
And the services folks can listen as well when they see that someone's having an issue. And then they can maybe, have you thought about this, right? Those would I guess, be not saying, oh, we've seen that problem, we can sell you the service that you need. You can say, Have you thought about giving
Yes.
things away, giving ideas away, thought, knowledge, leadership?
LinkedIn groups is a great secret weapon for that. There's so many, but as we're trying to give practical advice, join a LinkedIn group. People are going to be having their problems, their complaints. That's where you can go. And as you said, James, it's so critical, everyone. Don't start pushing your own services here, but you go back and say, hey, listen, here's what we did, or like we're happy here. Here's how we can help. Or not, I apologize, not here's how we can help. Here's what you can do to solve your problem.
Right.
And you do that over and over again. And all the social content's the same way. Another tip, you can do Google Alerts, to have keywords come up for things you're doing and jump in. But as you said, don't try to make that sale. Initially, it's really about how can I offer value, but it has to be genuine. Let me offer value to you.
I've seen people share ideas. LinkedIn groups is a great example where I've seen people say, hey, this is what I did,
Yes.
or this is what I've seen folks do, and it really did work for them. Now, you've got some things to evaluate, and then maybe they ask a question. Have you done X?
Yes.
Have you looked at that? Then all of a sudden you're in the conversation. You can start a back and forth with folks.
And that's critical. I mean, one person, I was doing an event and a lady came back with a legal notepad of everything I did wrong. Guess who I hired as a consultant for the next year for the event? I hired her. She wasn't doing it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but it worked. And I think social or online is the same way. If you're offering value, you show yourself as the expert, you show that you care, you're not going to win this 100 times. But you'll build a tribe, which just read Seth's stuff, which is great. And out of that tribe, all you need is a few percentage of people to convert. All these people are seeing that you're helping them. And keep in mind, it's not always about a sale. In my experience, James, I'm sure you've experienced this. I've had the pleasure and blessing to interview President Obama. I wrote a book about Facebook. All these things have happened. Now, again, I'm deep into social, but it's happened because of me being of value to others.
Yeah.
And doing that thousands of times, amplifying it. So that's been what's worked for me, and it can work with products and services businesses.
Successes. If a small business has had one or two good wins and successes, are there ways to socialize that without it feeling like I'm bragging? And I get a chance to talk to a lot of small business folks, and a lot of small business folks are just kind of humble.
I agree.
They just want to do their thing. They're doing it because they want to maybe spend a little more time with family, with friends. They found something. And of course, they have a passion for that business. But the idea of really trying to talk about how good you are without talking about how good you are and bragging. Talk about that for a second.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough, but I get what you mean. And I think a few things that I think could work is that one, this goes back to getting referrals and testimonials. LinkedIn's a great place to solicit that and say, hey, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to go on LinkedIn and do a referral to me. That's a nice soft way where it pats yourself on the chest and on the back, rather, wherever you pat yourself at, and you can showcase that. Another thing I've started doing is taking tweets that people say things about me, and I start to embed that on my website. So that's, again, people tweet out, hey, or good job, Ramon, or whatever it is, I embed that. So I think if you're showing value to people and you're a decent person, it's okay to also tout yourself. It's a whole other topic, but like an emotional bank, you may have covered that, where things, and I'm not an expert in that, but where you're giving, you're helping, it's okay to then say, hey, James, by the way, I've done all this and just wanted to show you, here's a little bit about me. You're going to be interested.
Alexandra Wilkes-Wilson, our previous, our last guest, talked a little bit about asking for favors. And it's okay to ask for a favor. Now, if you're just sucking from people and sucking and just taking and taking and taking, you're going to lose the trust. But that's, I think, the point you're getting
exactly
at
right.
is ask for a favor now and
That's
again.
exactly. And you earn it. You deserve it. Because you've invested the time into them, you can ask, and that's how the world goes around.
Someone asks me for a favor, I feel good if I can help someone out that's a genuine person that I think is doing the right things, is moving in the right direction. I feel good about myself helping out. So I love that idea. Felix is out in our audience. So Felix, welcome. Thanks for being on board here today. Really wants to steer the conversation a little bit towards, and we should, a little more on the services side of things. We've been talking about selling some products. But is there a big difference? From what I'm hearing, I'm not hearing a big difference on some of the strategies here, but is there one or two key things that a services type business needs to focus on more so than a retail?
Yeah. There are. I think a product business wants to focus on the product itself in addition to customer service and all kind of great things. The services, in my opinion, what they need to sell more is their expertise. Could be wrong in this, but this is how I see it in this conversation, is showcasing their expertise. Okay. If you're an accountant, law firm, give me any other service. I can't think of the top of my head here, but whatever people are buying your brain for, design firm, many services.
Architecture, yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking CPA, those types of things
CPA.
are coming to mind.
All these services, what do people want? They want to know that you know what you're talking about and that they can safely entrust what they're giving to you, and they're probably not so price conscientious. They want somebody to do a quality job. That's where using social content you can shine, because you can do a YouTube video every week. Hey, this is John from the CPA firm again with tax tip number 2. You do that over and over and over again in your small town. Remember, we're not trying to beat everybody in the USA. Small businesses go narrow. Who's the top dog, James? Who's the guy? Every week you've been doing the tax tip of the day. When it's time for tax time, your other 10 competitors didn't do it, you did, as a silly example. You get what I mean?
No, it's not silly. And what I'm even forming then, if I'm CPA, if I'm John the CPA, I can give those tax tips. But then if there is some major change, maybe I can bring on my lawyer buddy. And he can be, or there's some real estate changes.
Yes.
And so I can bring on a real estate guy, and we could do a quick little Q&A video or something like that together, grow that share that little ecosystem you have.
And then you're shining the light.
Right.
You have a bit of humility. You're all helping each other. So we just solved the whole world right now.
We're done.
No, but really, that's, I think, the best thing for services, to showcase your value. And you can do that through YouTube. I love video.
Okay.
You can do that through, of course, Twitter's a great source of that. It's a bit more digestible. Facebook is great. But I think that video for services is a great way to show who you are. And remember, the mobile tools you have, you can use that. Your tablets, your phones, all that is the basis for how you can showcase this.
Right. We're fortunate. Great studio here. We have the backing of the business circle. But this isn't the only type of video. So people could do, Gary Vaynerchuk will go back to him, does a great little Ask Gary V that he's been doing. He's just using I don't know if it's camera or his phone, what he's using there, but a lot of people can do that. And it goes back to just building the sense of community. Just seeing someone these days is so much nicer, and you get a feel. Build the community. It doesn't have to be super polished, right?
And that is so important. I think that, and I think you can do it cheaply, but I think as you grow, I would say, going back to some tactical things, I'd invest in a simple, nice microphone. I carry around, I wish I had in my bag, I'd open it up, a shotgun microphone. It's a little microphone that you can put in someone's face. I'd go with a separate video camera. You can use your phone, but you can use a separate video camera. So there's so many tools out there, James, that small businesses, again, as Gary says as well, should be publishers. I say this all the time, that instead of being a law firm or an accounting firm, any other services industry that's selling services, be a publisher of great content that happens to sell the services.
Yeah.
That's how I would consider framing the conversation.
I like to say digestible content, so short content that people can put inside themselves, fills them up a little bit, but it's not the overload. You're not trying to give so much information that they're, I'm done, I'm moving on.
And people don't have the time. Remember, they don't want it.
Right.
Someone like me who's like, where's the squirrel? They're gonna, quickly shift around. So.
Can you socialize too much? Can you? Social media, I believe, is a tool. I believe you've used those terms in other conversations I've seen, that it's a tool set. You have to learn how to use the tool correctly. Can you overuse social media? Can you overuse this tool?
It's a great question. I think you can. Going back to my acronym, frequent, relevant, engage, analytics, free. The first one is frequent. That addresses that, and I often say, how often should you do it? I like to say, James, it's very similar to how often should you kiss. If you kiss too little, your loved one's significant other, your dog, whoever it is, will think you don't love them, as a general sense. If you kiss too much, they'll think you're a freak. So the point is, social media is the very same way. Let's say Twitter or Instagram, any of these tools, you do it too much, it can be annoying. It's like, rubbing somebody's back, or a loved one, whatever it is. It's, after a while, it's like, thank you, but I feel sore now.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you do it too little, out of sight, out of mind, you're not there enough. Oh, I have a strategy to tweet once every 10 years. We're starting up tomorrow. It's too little. Yeah. So I would say there's a balance. Are you going to say how much, James, how much to tweet? Are you going to ask me?
No, because we started some of that, and again, it goes to your audience. How much do they want to consume?
Right.
How much time do they need to consume? Tool set. We haven't talked about email marketing campaigns. We've talked a lot on social, and that is the hot, shiny, new little object, but it should have a percentage in our toolkit. We should still be looking at email marketing. We should still be doing our blogs passé, and so 2007, are they still valuable? Your thoughts on some of the other tools that are available to us?
I love it, and I think for me, I think that they can all be integrated. Okay. So to set the stage in our little virtual whiteboard here, I like to think that you have email marketing, which I still think is the reach out and connect to people individually in their inboxes. Again, there's a whole science to how to do the email marketing, the subject line, and all those kind of things. But email marketing definitely is still very powerful. powerful. And tied to a CRM or marketing automation, it's even more explosive. But email marketing, still powerful. Subject lines are important, images, make a consistent basis, things like that. Then you have your blog or your website, or blog, which needs to have your fresh content. I think blogs are still valuable, James. Why that reason is, just to give a few reasons for each, is for SEO reasons, search engine optimization, as you know. Google and Bing, the search engines, to be found, you have to have content there. And the more fresher, the more it's linked to, the better. So blog is important, if anything, for that reason. Your blog then can nicely link to your social content, and your social can link to your email. So I think, yes, I personally believe as you have time, we don't want to stress people out, but as you have time, try to do all three. Have a great website, or all four, great website. Have your blog with fresh content once every 2 weeks, once a week, whatever. You have then your email newsletter, which can go out, again, once every 2 weeks, once a month. I personally think is a bit too little. And all that ripped, sliced, and diced, which you're a guru of, have that into your social and video. That's the 101 of what I'd say of content.
Those are new ways to grow the business, newer, right? Especially social being the newest of it. One of the old ways of growing a business is advertising.
Yes.
I don't know how many small businesses out there can afford a billboard in Manhattan. I'm assuming they're almost as pricey as an apartment would be out here. Television can be pretty darn pricey, but we can buy ads on Facebook. We can buy ads on Twitter. We could do radio marketing, things like that. Let's talk a little bit about advertising. Is advertising still a useful way to grow a business for small, medium-sized businesses out there?
There's a friend of mine, James, Carmen Sanyovi, with Urban Dojo, Brooklyn Karate School, and she talks a lot about old school marketing. I'm telling you, this young lady can use flyers, posters, the old school marketing that maybe our parents did, and she can tie that to codes to know what's the ROI of a poster in her dojo. So in summary, to answer the question, yes, old school marketing I think does work. Going back to buying ads and all that, I'm a firm proponent of it. I say get the free stuff done, you know, your website, the stuff we talked about, build that, get that rocking, and then supplement it with paid advertising. Tools like Outbrain, a service where you can buy an ad and have it seeded to Fox and CNN and kind of the other websites. These are amazing ways to do it. Just, of course, you kind of have to measure it, make sure if you're paying 25 cents, is it worth it for it? But I think yes, because buying it then, you're buying into a greater reach.
Do you buy that at the same time, or do you give your social, as we talked about, getting a little Twitter rhythm going on for that first quarter or so that you said? Do you do that first and then supplement with the advertising? Do you do it at the same time? How do you prioritize?
Yeah, if I had to guess without being in somebody's office, knowing exactly what they're doing, I like afterwards a bit, meaning for somebody who's starting out. And I say it because I think it's nice to have somebody click and go to somewhere where there's content, unless you're selling them directly, saying, buy my fruit or buy this car. But I like to say that if you're driving somebody somewhere, it better be the best you can be, the best it can be. So if it's not a landing page where they're entering an email address or something, I'd say have a bit of content there, then do it. And for those who already advanced, who've already have the content great, you may want to dip your toe into buy some advertising. Keep in mind, why are you doing it though? Right. Are you doing it to engage and build an audience, or direct sales, which are two different kind of ways to think about it?
See a question that came into our queue, and folks, if you have additional questions that you want to ask, we have just over 12 minutes or so left. You and I would love to go another hour or so, but again, this is a beginning conversation, and Ramon is he's a part of the business circle now. And really, again, folks, if you're just coming on board to understand what the business circle is, it's about building a community to share the growth aspect, to share the success stories of growing a business, but some of the trials and tribulations as well. But it's a community idea. So this is not by any means the end of the conversation with Ramon, but a question came in about outsourcing social media. That sounds strange to me that you wouldn't outsource it, because we talked so much about early on, you want to build a personal connection. But people do outsource that. Can you? What are your thoughts on doing that? Again,
we need to have the AT&T Business Circle hot seat so we can have the religions of who disagree on this in this second question. However, my opinion, James, I think the answer is yes. Let me clarify. Okay. I think that all business owners should know how to use social and should be able to use their phone to send a tweet or post on Facebook. That is a must. Okay. So that's one. I think point two, when I say outsource, here's what I mean. I'll give you an example myself. Every tweet I send in a certain way is from Ramon. Hey, I'm here, that's me. However, if I'm launching a new product, if I have an event I'm doing, if I'm doing something, I have no problem having my team or hiring a firm to say, hey, I have this defined project. Can we please put some content together and send it out? If that makes sense, my definition of outsourcing. So I think every business owner should do their own, have their voice, how they speak, how they feel, what they're doing. Do they curse or do they not? Are they, are they political or not? Which is up to the business owner. You need to be able to do that yourself. As you grow, though, you can't do everything, nor should you. Right. You may want to hire a team. You may want to have a social media person or your assistant or an outside company who can do it for you. So I think outsource, yes, in that caveat.
Is there an opportunity there that the small business owner could be a mentor, someone that has a more mature business that's looking to give back but also still grow? You could bring in students, you could bring in interns. Is that a valuable way to go after and still give back and give into the community of the small business?
I think it can work if you mean like using students and interns for social.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot. I think it can work, but I just be careful because your voice is important. So I think it can work, especially if you have someone who knows what they're going to do. My son, for example, Tim Ray Magic on YouTube, he knows social. He's taught me stuff, but I don't know if I'd say, use just any person if that makes sense. Right. So I think the answer is yes, but the proverbial hire interns to do it. They're cheap for free. I'd go very slow or not that.
And that was more, I think, the idea of if you have that mature business and you want to start giving back, and that's something that I've come across in learning from the business circle comments we get on social media, commenting on the business circle of wanting to give back and wanting to be a part of that. So again, folks, questions, comments, get those into us. We've got a little more time here to address a few more. Is there a next wave of social? We've talked about the Twitters and the Facebooks and Instagrams. Is there something else that you're keeping an eye on, a different type of tool, a different way of communication that you're keeping an eye on that maybe we should have a pulse on? Because we saw MySpace go away. We see evolution in this area, so we don't want to get so mired into just working on one platform and all of a sudden it goes away.
Yeah,
what are you looking at? What do you see?
Two things I'll say to that. One, there's a new service called Ello, which is supposed to be the anti-Facebook. My anti-advice on that is that, great to Ello team, hello, and if you're watching whatever it is, my point is that some business owners, Ramon, Facebook is going away. It's not going to be here tomorrow. Should we go? Listen, ask people in a room, where are people at? You already know where I'm going with this. They're on Facebook. Don't run away from Facebook. That's point one. So there are a lot of new services and tools, but the big four, the big five will always be there. I think, too, there's definitely new services. Snapchat is still relatively new. They're now going to be placing advertisements. So what I'm seeing, the new that's coming out, is we small business owners have to be even tighter and closer to our customers. Because as the more tools come out, Google, they have for the consumer version, the three promoted this, that, and the other to block out others. That's only going to happen more, James. More blocking, more narrowing, more we'll just give you the airline ticket and keep out the coupons for shoes. But you may want the shoes. So for the small business owner, keep close to your customers and build content that's engaging and that people want. And I think if you're doing that, so my two things are, what's new is less, and you have to be more focused.
All right. Minash, welcome to you. Thanks for being on board here. Question coming in about tweets. Lasts for kind of minutes. Right? Is there a way you can be effective on Twitter to keep that fire burning, that interest burning for hours, for days, without just constantly having to be there? Because it is such a flash and it's gone.
Yeah, it is. I think a couple things I'll say on that. One, don't forget the retweet button. Going back to not about yourself. Everybody wants to say me. But to talk about other people, hit the retweet button, amplify what other people are doing so you have fresh content. I think, too, yes, he has a great point, or she, but I think he has a great point, that Twitter is very transient. I think the word's very dynamic. It's very, very quick. So what I think it's okay to do is to repost what you've done every few days. It may sound weird as we're talking now, that's stale, but no. If I tweet, hey, I love oranges today, it's okay 2 days later for me to reschedule that and say it out even in a different way, because half the audience, a third of the audience may not have even seen it. It's a great question.
All right, yeah. I love oranges. Have you had your orange today? Who loves blood oranges?
Thank you.
You can do that type of thing, but it's still getting the same message. And the retweet, I love as well, because again, it's not just you as the individual saying, hi, me. It's, here's something I found interesting, and I'm giving it to you. Absolutely. I'm a conveyor of something that I think is value to you. Only works if you really know what's a value, though, to your customer. I mean, we keep coming back full circle to a lot of these general ideas. couple more minutes left here, folks. I do want to mention our next event, which is coming up. So stay with us. We've got a great event coming up in November that's going to be focusing on growing your business and getting ready for the holiday time. So I'm going to promote that in just a couple minutes here. But before we get there, if you had to pick, and I think we've tried to stay pretty positive here, but I'm going to have to go negative and tell the audience what not to do. What are, maybe it's Ramon's top 2, maybe it's his top 3, things that he would never want to see done on social media again by anyone that is watching us here today.
I think one, James, I would say don't have a public fight with anyone socially. I do see that from time to time. It will only end bad, even if you're on the right. Don't have a public fight.
Okay.
That's one. I think 2, don't get on social and be ignorant of it. It sounds weird. I'm not trying to scare people here, but you don't know how to do a direct message. So you're sending a direct message to your lover, and you didn't realize it was D, not DR or something like that. So I think those 2 things, I probably could think of 100 if I took the time to.
Okay.
But I think learn the technology. And things like that, because on social, as you know, one keystroke away can be the difference between 5,000 people and one person. So that's one. And then the other one I said, which I forgot what I said, but I know it was awesome when I said the first one.
and again, to recap, don't have the public fight.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
That's the big one. And yeah, that never ends well. All right, so that's the negative. That's the don't do's. Sure. But let's take a little maybe more time.
Sure.
We're talking growth here, and that's what we've done for this whole hour. What are some things, again, maybe it's the 2 or 3, you would love to see everybody doing and doing well and practicing? And I believe social does, and maybe you can also talk on this. Let's do this first. Let's talk first on the importance of practicing social media. I think the more practice, the better you get at things. So talk about that for a quick second.
Yeah, I would say that I think that the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you do it, ask your audience what they feel about it, and you'll see it by the retweets, by the Facebook likes. That's how you'll learn. Ooh, we did 2 of these posts. We got 50 likes. We did this one. Nobody did. So I think do that and get better and better at it. Be a publisher. That's the main thing I'd love to see people do, James, is that I wouldn't say it so drastically, but in a way, instead of being a seller of watches or selling shirts or selling legal services, be publishers of valuable content that happens to sell something.
And I've seen a question that keeps coming into the queue from a couple of folks. The word consistency is in the question, and people are saying, so do we need to be consistent? We're not prescribing necessarily. You tweet at 2:30 on Tuesday and you Facebook at 4 o'clock, but you do want to build a consistency. It goes back to my background, radio and television. You put out your promos to constantly remind people something's coming. You develop characters that are consistent, that people want to watch. You put the nightly news on at a certain time because that's consistency is a big component here as well.
No, for sure. I think going back to, again, you can do, it's going back to tax, or accounting, it's accounting Thursdays. I wish there was an A for letter of the alphabet week, but it's accounting Thursdays. So that you can do that. Every Thursday they can expect a tip. That's okay to do for sure, but we're saying it doesn't have to be so static and prescribed. Yeah, and formulated. Okay. So I think, and I would say, James, have fun with it. Now that happens to be, as you know, our style. That's really me. I'm a fun guy. I take myself very lightly. But I think have fun with it, and that's really the best way. You may screw up, make mistakes, move on. And so I would say have fun and be dear to your audience. Give them valuable content. You've said it a few times, James. I'd say if you're a giver, if you're really giving great content, you can't help but win.
Yeah.
It's people who want to go for the sale, buy now, who are going to lose.
Yeah. It brings us then to Ramon's top 2 or 3. What do you want to see everybody doing on social that's going to benefit them?
Yeah, sure. I think a couple things, James. I'd say 1, remember our acronym, FREE. Frequent, relevant, engaged, and analytics. That's one thing. I think point 2, definitely don't be afraid of it. That's point 2. I think 3, find other people who are kind of selling what you do. Get to know what they're doing. Learn from them. And I think the 4th thing is to listen. I think we say that, it sounds weird, you're at a cocktail reception, all that, but man, use those keywords and really just take the time to listen and know what's happening on social, because then you can serve your customers or prospective customers. Right. You'll find new opportunities better.
Yeah. No, I love that. Folks, coming up on November the 18th, that is going to be our next live Q&A session from the Business Circle. You can head to bizcircle.att.com to get more information. Riva Lasansky is going to be with us. And again, we're going to be talking about, as we head into the holiday season, really what your businesses can do to prepare for the holidays. Small, medium-sized businesses, holidays can be make or break time. Absolutely. And so we'll be talking with Riva about that live in Los Angeles, November the 18th. Again, bizcircle.att.com. Give you all sorts of information so you can register for that event. You have the Small Business Summit coming up here. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Have fun. What do you hope people are going to take away that attend the Small Business Summit in New York? What's your main message going to be to them this year for that?
Main message this year, I think, is to break out of the mold, to be different. I think that's the main thing we're talking about. Be different, break out of the mold, and that's part of the conversation today. You can't be the same and be static to grow. You have to be willing to get beyond what you're doing. So I think break out, and you already said it, but I really say have fun. If I can't have fun with it, I don't do it. And James, we give away a lot of prizes at the summit as well. So people can come by and get a lot and say they saw us in the AT&T Business Circle, and we may wink and let them in. We'll see.
All right. Well, you can check out more again, Small Business Summit. Smallbiztechnology.com. That's how you can stay in touch with Ramon as well. Infusionsoft, you work
Absolutely.
there. He's all over social media, folks. There are also some great conversations that he has had with other folks on YouTube. So I encourage you, head to YouTube, Ramon Ray, and there's a lot more ideas and content.
Search it.
Hour has gone by, and it goes by very quickly, but I do appreciate the effort and the time here. Folks, really appreciate all of you for being on board. And to the Business Circle, brought to you by AT&T, really appreciate you all being there, being a part of this growing community. If you want to learn more, bizcircle.att.com. With that, we are going to wrap things up. Again, my name is James Hilliard, and we do look forward to talking to you all down the road.